What's up, guys? It's your boy, the hoodlum, Eric Acton, and you're tuning in to the 3 Count Podcast. Enjoy. Welcome, everybody, to another great edition of the 3 Count Podcast presents Now Entering the Ring. I'm your host, Clifford Red Dog Miller, as always, because, that's what I do. I host this show because it's awesome. But more importantly, let's go down the roster right now. So currently with me, you guys know him. He's my longest running friend. He's been a guy. He's a veteran. He's from Lincoln, Nebraska. He's a father. He's also a stepfather. He's the man. He is the meth. He is the legend. He is the great one known as Lou the Franchise.
Not again that I am the hottest, fastest growing podcast host
Of a show that doesn't exist. You have to keep caveating this because the show doesn't exist yet.
It's gonna happen. Not yet.
All right, but this is the 3 Count Presents Now Entering the Ring, which means one thing: we have a special guest for you. This special guest, you have seen her on WWE. You have seen her on Empower Wrestling. You have seen her as part of SKPW and APW. You have seen her on Ring of Honor, CZW, Rise Ascent, Atomic Championship Wrestling, and my favorite, because this is where I found her, Camp Leapfrog on IWTV. She was, and I'm going to put this out there, Lou, I think I told you this story. She was the smoothest moving person I saw in the ring, and I was like, I'm going to reach out to her. And actually, the day I reached out to you was the day I was watching that episode.
Awesome.
But she currently also holds a 9-4 record in the LFC. You guys can look that up later because that's not what we're going to talk about. So here she is, Vita VonStarr.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. Stoked.
Thank you so much for just taking the time and coming to talk to us.
Absolutely.
Awesome. So here's how it works. I've got a bunch of questions for you. Lou's got a bunch of questions for you. And then we have the world famous 3 Count Podcast 10 Count questions. We'll get there when we get there. But first things first, I want to know, who is Vita VonStarr?
Vita VonStarr is vivacious. I'm an enigma. I am known for being super flashy in the ring, adding a lot of flair. I like to do everything super extra and pretty, because why not? We're going to be fighting each other. Might as well make it fancy. So that's Vita VonStarr.
That is very much true. And when I saw you on Camp Leapfrog and you were just like hanging from the ropes, I was like, that's an interesting way to get in the ropes. And then as we were talking before, I was like, oh, well, this makes sense.
Yeah, circus is my shoot job. I'm very fortunate to be able to, prior to COVID, make a living being an athlete and being an artist. So I always sought out things that were a difficult physical discipline as well as a creative art form. So wrestling and circus for me, they're kind of like cross-training for each other. Circus stuff is very much strength-based and resistance stuff. You're constantly doing pull-ups and suspending your own body weight, hanging upside down. And wrestling, I get all the cardio in. So it's a good balance, actually. I mean, I'm beat up all the time, but it's a good balance of,
Well, I love it. And so tell me, what's been the hardest part about, well, actually, now I want to know. I'm genuinely curious. What's been the hardest part about being a wrestler and an artist in the circus?
For sure, the hardest thing for me to adapt to was doing things on the fly and not having a lot of time to prepare for shows. Sometimes maybe you have a couple hours to put a match together, or maybe not even, maybe 10 minutes, maybe somebody shows up late, whatever. So everything else I had done prior is a massive amount of rehearsal. So, and in a live show, things never really go exactly according to plan. There's always something off, that's just the nature of it, which is why live shows are awesome, because you always have that authenticity where, it's like a once in a lifetime kind of thing, where even if you're doing the same show multiple times, each one is always a little different for the audience. So I was very used to being extremely well prepared for everything I did prior to pro wrestling and wrestling. You just kind of go in there and, you know, something will probably get messed up, almost guaranteed. And, you know, it's just how you react to it and flow with it. And depends a lot on your opponent and chemistry and stuff like that. So that was interesting for me and a challenge for sure.
Oh, I could imagine. And I know, like, just even for myself, when you talk about, like, hey, you have 10 minutes and you're the first match up and your opponent just showed up, like,
Yep.
cool. I guess we'll figure this out.
Totally.
So my question for you then, my next question is going to be like, what's the best advice that you can give to up and coming wrestlers?
Train your ass off. You know, it's always like pay your dues. Yeah. I mean, I don't think it ever really ends, you know, maybe for like the hugest superstars, you know, but it's a constant process of learning and getting better. And it's a ton of work. And a lot of times there's not a lot of reward for it. But, you know, it pays off in the end. And then you do have those shows where, you know, it all falls into place where, you know, you have this amazing match and the crowd's super hot and it's a cool venue, a cool company, you know, and then it's awesome. But it takes a lot to find those moments and to get to those moments. So for me, I think the best advice is just work your ass off, you know, like anything in life.
I like it. So I'm going to hand this over to Lou. He's got some questions for you, and then I've got some more questions after that.
Hi, Vita.
Hi.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm good. My first question is can I have your autograph?
Of course.
Yes.
Yes.
No, I'm just kidding. My real question here. What's the best moment in wrestling so far for you?
My best wrestling moment so far, I would definitely say when I got onto Ring of Honor, when I debuted. It's been almost a year now. So this was Final Battle Fallout Philly last year in December. And I had no idea I was debuting that night or anything about The Righteous or, you know, I was a fan of Vinny prior to everything happening, but no, I literally had no idea what was happening. I was just told to show up and, you know, I might be used or I might not. And then Vinny came up to me a couple hours before the show and was like, hey, you know what's going on? And I was like, no. Told me about the angle and what we were going for. And I was like, sweet, you know. So that was a big moment for me, for sure, because I always wanted to wrestle for Ring of Honor. It was always a big goal of mine, and it was amazing. And that's just the beginning. We were just getting started still, even now. You know, obviously we got derailed with COVID and everything, but we have a lot of stuff in the works. So it's just gonna get bigger and bigger. But yeah, debuting for Ring of Honor was like a huge moment for me, for sure.
Do you have any like post-match food that you like to eat?
What's that?
Do you have any post-match meals that you go after?
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah, I try to eat all of my protein like early in the day, and then at night, usually after everything, I usually want like salad and sweet potatoes. That's like a go-to of mine. Because usually I'm starving by the time I get home or I get back to the hotel or whatever. I'm starving. So sweet potatoes, great fiber. Stick it in the oven. Eat the salad, so I'm not, you know, as hungry while it's cooking. And then slap some coconut butter on there, and that usually keeps me going till the next day.
Gotcha. What motivates you to improve in wrestling?
I'm in a battle with myself constantly. I think it's easy to compare yourself to other people. Everyone does it, like, oh, why is this person, so far ahead, or how did everything fall into place for them, or whatever. But I think it's more productive to be in competition with yourself. So for me, it's never, I'll never arrive, and I don't think you ever do. There's always something else to achieve. There's always another level to get to. So for me, it's just constantly moving up every time, just getting better. And, you never really perfect the craft, but, putting more energy into getting better at the whole package, because it's a lot and it's hard, and it's always, pretty much always hard. Always a challenge. So, yeah, the thing that keeps me going is just always knowing that there's another thing to achieve.
Cool. All right, my last question for you. Let's jump in the time machine. Let's speed it up 5 years. Where do you want to be?
5 years from now, I would say I want to have at least one Ring of Honor title under my belt. Hopefully we can get back to traveling in the not too distant future. So I would love to go train in Japan and Mexico, to work with the Lucha guys. That would be amazing. That's definitely on my list.
Cool.
Awesome. So then, with all these other questions that we're asking you, I want to know, what's the worst bump you've taken?
Probably when I got German suplexed by a 300-pound man. This is in training, just in a heat drill, and that was not a good time. I've taken some really bad bumps. I mean, everyone's taken some shitty bumps, but yeah, I basically got chucked like a rag doll across the ring. I was not okay. It messed up my shoulder real bad. I was out for a couple weeks because of it.
Damn. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a whole bunch of suckitude right there.
Yeah, I'm not that big of a person, so yeah, 300-pound man can actually throw me pretty far away. Yeah, it's not fun. Not so fun.
So what's the hardest you've ever been hit in the ring?
I spent a lot of time training with Ophidian the Cobra, and he's pretty well known for extremely hard chops. A lot of, chops are kind of like, it takes your breath a little bit, but with him, it's like he just puts his hand through your chest. Like, I don't know. I've never been chopped worse than I have by him. So.
Yes, I have heard of the legends of Ophidian's chops. Actually,
yeah.
You're not the first. Crazy enough, of all the interviews I've done, you are not the first person to tell me that.
Oh wow! So yeah.
So I'm well adjusted to know. I was like, man, like when she said Ophidian, I was like, yeah, I know, I've heard this one.
Yeah, it's a thing.
I was like, well, this is the number. I don't remember how many numbers now, but yeah. Okay.
That's funny.
So
that's really funny.
my last question for you before we jump into the 10 count questions. This is definitely one of my favorite questions to ask. Every wrestler has one of these, and I'm curious about yours. What's been your favorite fan interaction?
Oh wow, that's a hard one because there's so many. I really love the little girls in the crowd, and I always know if there's like a gymnast or a dancer in the crowd. At Atomic, actually, one of the other guys on the roster has a really lovely family, and he has a couple daughters, and they're like my cheering section, even if I'm heel. And I love seeing them. Yeah, I love the young girls. They're always like a thing for me to, because I remember being like a young girl, and for me, like when I was a kid, like gymnastics was like my big thing. So just, watching gymnastics on TV and stuff like that, like I could always relate to, the girl, the woman who is like doing all the flips and everything like that. So, yeah, I think I kind of like see myself in those young girls a little bit. So.
Oh, that's awesome. I like that actually because I have a 9-year-old myself, 9-year-old daughter, and she's like to watch some of the people who have been performing, and then unfortunately, like this episode, like we're recording is kind of late because she's in bed right now. But normally she's on, and she loves to interview like people, all the women that we have on the show. Because I
That's
definitely
awesome.
I love having positive influence women such as yourself come on the show and have these great discussions with her. So and
That's
like
awesome.
yeah, I like to introduce her to a bunch of people. So she's been around the block knowing like who's who now. So she
I
has
love
a
it.
so
It's so important, and like especially in today's like culture and society, like women, girls need to see that women kick ass and are just as strong and can do all the same things. Like it's we're breaking down more and more barriers as we go along, but there's still like so much work to be done, and that's always like so important for me to see those girls that are just like young and fearless and like already kicking ass and don't have those like preconceived notions of like anything holding them back.
yeah, definitely. And it's funny too because like last February, like so I'll tell you, I started training January of 2020, and so I keep her out of the ring, right? Because she's 8, turning 9, so I keep her out of the ring. And one time she got into the ring, we were tearing down the ring, she got in, and she also does this handstand and just drops, perfect. Everybody like stopped doing what they were doing. They all looked at her and they're like, "Well, I guess we know where she's gonna be at." And
I
like,
love it.
it's
I
like
love it.
7 years from now, I definitely know what's gonna be happening.
Hell yeah. All about it.
So that's all of our big questions that we do have for you, but we do have the world famous 3 count podcast 10 count questions. So here's how it works. We're gonna fire off a bunch of questions at you, rapid, quick. It's the first thought that comes to your mind. So
Good.
we're gonna put the imaginary timer on the clock. Bing! And here we go. SmackDown or Raw?
SmackDown.
Favorite movie?
Kill Bill.
Oh, yes. Let's go.
Strong women.
Mm-hmm. So, Freddy or Jason?
Freddie.
Favorite candy?
Nerds ropes.
Oh, yeah. Let's go. Let's go.
Okay.
This is a brand new question. I'm actually just debuting it specifically just for you. Marilyn Manson or Rob Zombie?
Rob Zombie. Hell yeah.
Favorite TV show?
American Horror Story.
What season?
Probably Asylum.
Yeah, that was actually one of my
Yeah.
favorites too. Actually, I tell people too. I had to go with The Coven, and then Freak Show, and then Murder House because those are like all amazing.
Freak Show I love too, because circus, creepy circus.
Mhm.
Yes, and then seeing Neil Patrick Harris as like the crazy magician, I was like,
Yeah.
that tripped
He's
me.
good, man. I'm a fan.
All right, Batman or Superman?
Batman.
Gotta be. And then your favorite podcast?
This one right here.
That's right. We had nothing to do with this. What are you talking about? No coercion whatsoever in this. All right,
Not
so
at all.
nominate someone to be on this podcast.
I'm gonna say Gabby Gilbert, just off the top of my head.
I'll tell you to pick a second one.
A second one.
Yeah. We love you, Gabby.
Totally. Corinne Mink.
All right, cool. And then last but not least, my favorite question to ask every single person who comes on this show. Favorite curse word?
The F-bomb. I mean, universally applies to everything. So.
Exactly. It's not a PC show. We know what you're talking about.
What word starts with F?
Friendship. That's what it is.
Exactly.
So that's it for the 10 count questions. So here's what we need from you, right? So tell our listeners and our viewers where they can find you on your social media platforms.
Look me up on Twitter, VonStarr, and Vita VonStarr on Instagram. I'm going to do a shameless plug here. Vita VonStarr Circus Strong style t-shirts, hot off the press. DM me if you want one. I'm going to do some mail orders next week, so hit me up with your size and address, and I'll send it out to you.
Awesome. You heard it here. You can pick them up from her. So, with that being said, this is the 3 Count Podcast presents Now Entering the Ring. I'm your host, Clifford Red Dog Miller, here with Luda Franchise. This is, like I said, Now Entering the Ring with Vita VonStarr. So tune in to the next episode and be there or be somewhere else.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you again.
Hey guys, if you like this video, make sure you subscribe to our channel to get the best content from the 3 Count. We're the best podcast out there. Don't let anyone tell you different. Make sure you follow us on Instagram at 3CountPod, as well as on Twitter at 3Count_pod.